This morning I spent 4 hours analyzing 275,000 of my direct LinkedIn DM messages, and I've had about 20,600 conversations over 7 years. So I essentially exported the whole data set from LinkedIn. You can do it through LinkedIn settings. And I ran it through ChatGPT's 3.0 model, and I spent about 4 hours manipulating their data. And don't worry, I got it to anonymize all of the data itself, so I can't actually extract any of that stuff out. And I came out with some pretty insane findings, which I'm going to walk you through in this video. And this really proves a lot of the hypothesis of what I teach in our program. And you can just take this and run with it. I promise you're going to book more meetings. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matthew Lakajev. You can check me out here. I'm currently ranked #1 lead generation expert in the whole world in Australia across all social media platforms, and number 6 in the world across all social media platforms. I've got about 76,000 followers on LinkedIn. Our business is about $3.5 million a year. And this is like pretty much the only channel that I do. Obviously I do YouTube and a podcast, but this is the primary acquisition channel that we do. So what I did is, if you go to LinkedIn and you go to settings here, right? What you can do is, if you go to data privacy and you go get a copy of your data, you can click this little button and you got to click request. It takes about, I think it's like 24 to 48 hours, and then you can download the archive. And in the archive, there's a zip folder, and in that has every single message you ever sent, which is pretty insane. But let's get into the data, because this is what actually matters. So I looked at my messages from Jan 2018, when I was like back in sales, till April 2025. I pulled the full messaging export. It was about 80 megabytes. I only did one-to-one messages. I might actually zoom in on this as well so you can see this a little bit easier. Yeah, that's probably a little bit easier. Only one-to-one messages. I won't get into what this actually means, because it doesn't really matter that much. And so why did I do this report? Because most people literally think that LinkedIn is cold email, and they're so wrong. LinkedIn is a networking platform where you have conversations with people over a longer period of time to actually book calls. And all the cold email bros jump on LinkedIn and wonder why it doesn't work. And they do this for services-based industries like accountants and lawyers and stuff. And they just trash their reputations. And it's because they don't understand the psychology behind it. So that's what I want to walk through now. So most sellers think, it's a cold email inbox. It's not. It's a networking platform that you use. And so I tested by going through 20,647 actual conversations that I've had over 7 years, and 275,305 direct messages that are sent over this period of time. And I tracked, the question was from when the message started to the booked meeting. And the takeaways you're going to see here are insane. So here's the executive summary with the takeaways. So the long game wins. When I've had a conversation with someone with 40 to 80 meaningful messages exchanged between each other over 2 to 4 months, they convert book calls at a 42 to 79% rate versus less than 1% with less than 10 messages exchanged. This is what people don't understand about LinkedIn. It's the long game. You're here to build trust with a lot of people over a long period of time, and no one can be patient enough. So they're trying to pitch super early, and people don't trust you yet. So you win at LinkedIn by having chats and asking questions and meaningful conversation to build trust and connection with them. And I book calls at a 42 to 79% rate. That's like unheard of in like any other scenario in any prospecting lead generation ever. If you speak to any lead generation expert and you say, hey, this person books calls at a 42% rate, they'll be like, get fucked. Like, nobody does that. Or 79%, they'll be like, nah, you're out of this world. The other thing is, you ask late, you close late. Proposing the call after 30 messages closes or books the meeting at 66%. But if you ask for the call within the first 10 messages, it's only 18% as well, which is really hard. So what this data means up here is, if you ask within subtext from all the messages that are sent, it becomes less than 1%. If you ask above 40 to 80, it becomes 42 to 79% as well. I just want to get that, because it's very hard sometimes. I don't want to skew the data, so I want to give you accuracy. But by actually asking for the call after 30 messages, it's a 66% likelihood of booking the call. So it just means having a chat with someone. You want to add value before pitching. If you drop a resource or link after 5 touch points, so that's what I do. I'm like, hey, what are you struggling with? What are your problems? I'll have this free thing. It triples the book meetings compared to the link dropping in the opener. So if I just like give someone a random link, it doesn't work that well. If you have a good conversation, then give them a relevant link, it triples the booked meetings, which is insane. now replying to a message within 2 hours. So median reply gaps of less than 2 hours sustain a 7 to 8 times higher win rate. Win rate in this context is booking a meeting than letting prospects wait all day. So like, there's the catch-22 here, right? You've got to have a chat over a long period of time, but when they come back to you and they're ready, you got to get onto them within 2 hours. And that's one insight that I didn't realize how much it contributed to actually booking a meeting. So it's kind of like you have a long chat over a period of time, and then something happens in their life and they're like, screw it, I got to talk to this person. They reach out and they want to get onto you straight away. Then inbound is warmer, but outbound drives volume. So my inbound started chats booked 10%, 10% of meetings on an average of 49 messages. My outbound chats booked at about 8% on about 44 messages, yet produce about 1,100 calls, right? This one was about 700. When I mean inbound versus outbound, I just mean they started the chat or I started the chat. And so when I look at it here, this is how many chats happened. Here's how many calls were suggested, 1,808 confirmed bookings. And these are the only the book calls I've done from actually just having a conversation. These aren't the book calls that come through the website and all that kind of stuff. So we get a lot more calls coming in through there as well, which is pretty cool. So the reason this is happening is because people trust people over a period of time. It takes time to build a connection, to build familiarity, for them to see you as someone they want to reach out to. And if you try to pitch them really quickly, what that does is it essentially it puts up their guard and gets you as a salesperson, right? You don't want to be known as that. So this is what I like to call the trusted advisor spectrum from stranger to trusted advisor. Trust climbs on 2 rails, right? Familiarity and perceived value. If you become familiar with someone, like if I meet someone from Australia overseas, I'm like, oh, another Aussie, what's going on? We have some familiarity. If someone, if I see a comedian who I've watched their stuff, I'm like, oh, they've given me value, right? And so those two things combined, like a family member listens to you when you're upset, you spend a lot of time with them, right? You trust them a lot. Each of these rails scores a unit by touch until the next gate unlocks. All this means is that someone starts as a cold stranger, right? And then you want them to consider you a trusted advisor, right? And so there's a way to do this through familiarity units and perceived time and the primary lever of what actually does it as well. So the way that you kind of take someone from a cold stranger is a piece of content sparks their attention. Then after that, they start casually observing and they follow and they see your content and maybe you had a bit of light DMing. Then when you're a warm engager is when you're having like a one-to-one conversation, emerging advisor, book the time, trusted advisor when they buy from you, and then when they refer from you. So that's like how the structure actually works. Most creators get it all wrong because they literally only do this. That's all they do. They don't actually talk to people. They might talk to them in the comments, but don't talk to people. So they don't take people long enough over here, like over this side as well. And so why this spectrum matters on LinkedIn. Unlike email, the LinkedIn feed supplies constant micro touches. So your headline popping up, a comment notification, a profile view, each one can be a bank of familiarity unit or perceived value. If you treat the platform as a networking lounge, the data shows that when you hold units accumulate methodically, cold strangers glide through the gates almost on autopilot, rush the process if you automatically blast out to them, and you forfeit both rails. So you actually decrease the trust. So this commenting, profile viewing, all of that gets someone up to a casual observer. But until you actually engage with the other individual and build trust, it's kind of like, it doesn't matter how much YouTube you watch of Alex Hormozy, you don't know if he's a psycho. You got no idea. You haven't chatted to the dude. And so you can watch as much stuff online, but you'd never really trust someone until you get to meet them as well. And so when we go down here, in practical terms, the content sparks gate 1 or 2. A conversation can spark gate 1 or 2, but content can work better. 3 and 4 gates happen in conversations, and word of mouth also, that's when they're in gate 5, they really trust you, and then they start saying really great things about you. And that's how word of mouth can move people through these gates without you even talking to them. That's why referrals are so good and they work so well, because so much trust is built as well. So you've got all these different gates, and I won't go through them now. So what actually happened? So I got all the stats, put it in, and let's just see the results, right? Because this video is getting a little bit long, and so I want to make sure it's just full of juicy goodness instead of a fucking hour-long video like I always do. So it's just too long. I understand that it's too long. Okay, cool. So let's look at this. volume and funnel. So calls confirmed. So I booked about 1,808 calls, right? Confirmed, right? Cumulative win rate, 8.8% from all the messages, which is pretty damn good, right? So it's pretty much from about 10% of the conversations that I start, I book a meeting with, which is pretty good. What this tells us, only 1/3 of conversations ever reach a meeting ask, and just 1 in 11 threads usually books. Cool. Conversation lengths and sweet spot time. This is what you'll be fucking really interested about, because this is something that I've been harping on for such a long time, and I've been screaming it from the rooftops, and now I have data. So you can't argue with data. And so messages in the thread, right? So this is all my messages, right? If we had less than 10 messages back and forth and I proposed a meeting, I would only book 0.9% of the time. Really, really, really low. If in the messages in thread, if I chatted to them from 10 to 20 messages, it's a 7.8% booking rate. But if I did 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80 messages, I booked an 80% rate. 80%. So high. Like, have a long conversation with someone over a long period of time. And this is kind of your sweet spot. 40 to 50 and 50 to 60 messages. The amount of booked meetings in here is absolutely insane. Obviously, I booked some before that as well. But like, the other thing you've got to take into account is like, I have a lot higher skill than most people like on LinkedIn in general. So what you want to do is look at this data and be like, okay, what are my best numbers? What's the best likelihood of me getting a meeting? And mind you, I sell to small business owners. So if you sell to small business owners, this is perfect. It could be different if you're selling to executives and CEOs. But if you sell to them, you want to take my statistically best numbers and plug them in. Like, so this is the median days of how long we're chatting for. I booked so many meetings after like, look at that. Look how many meetings I booked after 100, like after 100 plus messages. I should have actually extrapolated the data out even more. Some people I've had conversations with for like 18 months before I booked it. And actually, I got to go back and make that data and extend it out because I didn't realize there was 831 meetings booked at 100 plus. That's insane. It's usually lead magnet chit chat 3 months later, lead magnet chit chat 3 months later, right? Which is like absolutely insane. And like most people look at this data set and any lead gen company, when they show it to you, like their brains will explode because they're all in here. And so what's happening is you're just smashing all these people with messages. You're booking fuck all meetings. And the other thing, we haven't even looked into the quality of meetings. I'm going to go into another report and I'm going to look at the close percentage and then based off time before that we've actually had together, right? And the reason this works is, I've got to show this really quickly on my iPad, and I swear to God, I'm going to make this short for you just because I keep making these videos long, right? Oh, and actually, no, one sec. Okay, the reason this matters is because on the left is a stranger and on the right is a trusted advisor. If someone trusts you a lot, they're more likely to buy from you. The way you move them from a stranger to a trusted advisor, you build familiarity and you give them value, right? You help them out. Or you could be a comedian and you make them laugh, right? Same thing, it's value. Now, the way you move them across is you go from here to here to here. And so you go content gets them so far, and then conversations gets them so far, right? And then word of mouth also extrapolates that, right? But what's happening is the longer you have a conversation with someone, if you maybe do it for like a month, it might build here on trust. But if you do it for a long time, by the time when they're ready to buy, it's like an extremely high percentage chance that they're actually going to buy, which is really, really cool. And so like this unique finding in this data set is like insane. Like that, look at that booking rate. Like what other lead gen person ever could say they have like a 79% booking rate? It's insane. It's crazy. And so the key insight is the trust corridor. Threads that push into 40 to 80 meetings over a 2 to 4 month time horizon have a 4 to 8 times better than fast pitch threads and still outperform mega threads. Ask only after the prospects are closed from gate 3 to 4, which is insane. And so if you look at the ask timing when to propose a call, if I did it with less than 10 chats, it's 17.7% booking. But if I did more than 30 chats, it's a 65%. And I'm also learning from this data set as well. Like this is new data for me that I'm learning from. It's kind of like goes on my hypothesis, but which is pretty awesome. Now, meeting pitch after meeting 30 closed at 66%, which is crazy. Value drop when to share a resource. After touch 5, if you share a resource then and it's contextual, there's a 33% booking rate, which is like absolutely insane. Reply speed effect. This is crazy why you keep the ball rolling. If you reply within 2 hours when they're ready to actually book a call, then there's a 7.8% booking rate. If you reply within 24 hours, there's a 2.6% booking rate, which is crazy, which is, honestly, it's insane. Inbound versus outbound. You can see my inbound performed a little bit better with the booking rates as well than outbound. Outbound had less chats as well, which is interesting, around the same median days, but obviously outbound is the primary thing of reaching out to people as well. What this really means, and then we got the trust gate overlay. What do I go? Warm engager. So you can say this here. So right here, booking rate milestone. So if they're a cold stranger, less than 1%, casual observer, 8%, warm engager. But if they treat you as an emerging advisor, then there's a 42 to 79% booking rate, which is insane. Like, it's crazy. And so we'll go through here. Like, this is kind of like the blueprint for DMs, and I'm just going to wrap this up super soon because I don't want it to be too long. The dialogue for your actual conversations. So you open, day 0, spark some relevance, earn a reply. Then weeks 1 to 2, understand their pain, give them a micro insight or give them a link to something. Weeks 3 to 4, demonstrate expertise and raise their value, have a conversation with them. Weeks 6 to 10, secure the call when the fit is obvious, when they kind of come to you. So this is like, you built fuckloads of trust, and then they're like, actually, I want to deal with your problem. I want to work with you, right? KPI benchmarks. Here's some benchmarks as well. I looked at like KPI benchmarks. How do you stack up, right? So booked calls per 100 DMs. From my top percent of DMs from started, it was 3.1%. If I used personalization and strong relevance, 57%, I won't get into that as well because it's too much data. And we've got some limitations on the data and stuff like that as well. But guys, this is crazy. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed the Ultimate LinkedIn DM report and going through this and getting some statistical analysis on my weightings. Anyways, guys, peace out. Have a good day.